Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our Diocesan Convention practice session. The practice session we're going to go through today will mirror the procedures that we're going to follow on the day of convention, November the 19th. This session will be recorded, it's being recorded, and will be made available for replay in English and in Spanish. As an attendee in a Zoom webinar, you will not be able to turn on your audio or video. Zoom webinar is different from a standard Zoom meeting in that only speakers and presenters have the ability to be seen and heard unless called upon and unmuted. If you happen to object to being recorded, that's okay. You have a couple of choices. You can opt to leave the meeting at this point and view the recording later on, or you could just choose not to be unmuted later. Today, we'll be using 4 important features during this practice. We're going to be using the hand raise feature, Q&A, Zoom polling, and chat. These features will be discussed in this introductory video. And
this video will fully explain 3 important things: how to vote, how to be recognized to speak, and how to communicate with staff on official convention business for this virtual convention. We will use 2 separate ways to vote. Let's start with Zoom polling, which is basically the equivalent of voting by acclamation. Whenever there comes a point during convention to have a vote by acclamation, an announcement will be made saying, "We are about to vote by acclamation." And in that moment, you will see a Zoom poll pop up on your screen. When this happens, simply read the question, select the answer, and then click Submit. These results will be shared fairly quickly after answering. Now let's talk about v-polling, which is basically the equivalent of voting by ballot. This is a completely separate process and requires a totally different logon on a completely separate website. It will be easiest to use a different device like a phone or a tablet to access v-poll. However, you can also open up another window in your browser like this. Make sure you don't close the Zoom webinar. Just minimize it while you vote. To access this secure logon, you should have received an email with all the necessary logon information. First, click the link for v-polling. Then, the unique access code for convention. Follow the prompts to fill in your name, ID number, and select the polling session. Click Submit, and you are now logged on. Once on the page, you will see a page that says something similar to "Question will be broadcast shortly." That is because the poll is not yet open for voting. Just like we did with Zoom polling, we will make an announcement saying, "We are about to vote by ballot. In just a moment, the ballot will be open." At this time, you are to either find the second browser window on your computer or have your second device logged into v-poll and ready to go. And then you will see the active and open ballot for what you are supposed to be voting. If you don't see the active ballot displayed on v-poll, don't worry. Just simply refresh your screen and your ballot should then be displayed after that. Again, simply read the question on your ballot, make your selection, and then click Submit. Since this type of voting is slightly more complicated and requires going in and out of Zoom or using a second device, more time will be given to ensure your vote is cast properly and counted. Because more time is used for v-poll, however, unlike Zoom polling, results will not be immediate. Convention is not just about voting, though. Delegates still have seat, voice, and vote. This leads us to explaining how you can be recognized if you choose to speak. The platform for this convention is Zoom Webinar, As a webinar attendee, you don't have the ability to mute and unmute yourself to speak. The default setting is that all attendees are muted, and you must be granted permission to speak by the host. For this convention, the official way to be recognized to speak is by using the raise hand function in Zoom. If you would like to address the entire convention, simply click the raise hand button. Once recognized, you will need to unmute yourself to be heard by others. Zoom does keep track of the order in which people have raised their hands. The host will virtually lower your hand once you have had the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Last, let me explain the functionality of the Q&A. The Q&A is to be used for official convention business only. If you would like to speak to a member of the diocesan staff, or you're having issues that need to be addressed, or if you would like to submit an amendment to a resolution, please use the Q&A. To post an amendment, you must use the exact wording you want to propose. For all non-business, like requesting prayers or participating in virtual worship, please feel free to use the chat function. If you need help with voting, Zoom, or anything else during convention, members of staff will be available. This support contact information will be shared throughout convention and has been emailed to delegates. More information and all convention materials can be found on the diocesan website. Thank you for serving as a delegate to the 185th Diocesan Convention.
Very good. Thank you very much for playing that video. My colleague Rebecca Elfring-Roberts has a word.
Hello all. I just want to break in with a quick note for those of you who registered sometime between yesterday evening's e-news and this morning. A number of you got an email from me this morning with VPOL credentials and details. Unfortunately, the colleague that we work with on the back end was unable to actually provide you all of those credentials. So if your VPOL number is anywhere between 18 and like 48, you actually haven't, or 56, your VPOL's credentials are not going to work. I'm hoping that we can get them updated by the time we get to the end of this presentation. And so please be aware that that is a concern. I do know that they are not working, and I apologize for that. I'd really hoped that since all of you wanted to come and join us, which is wonderful, that I could get those up and running, but it was a little last minute for the other half of our VPOL team. So I apologize, but please keep listening. There's lots of other good information out there. Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, gonna pull back up our deck. Okay, well, now that we've had a clear explanation of our Zoom webinar features, let's do some practicing. We're going to practice the hand raise, Q&A, chat, and some Zoom polling. Okay, so as mentioned in the video, if you wish to make a motion, speak to a resolution, or ask the president of convention to be recognized for convention-related business, you must raise your hand. Hand raises are shown in the order in which they were received, ensuring your place in line to speak. The president will call on you, and the Zoom host will allow you to speak. You must unmute yourself in order to speak, and then the host will mute you again. The Zoom host will lower your hand after you've been recognized, and then you could also lower your own hand by clicking on raise hand again. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see 3 buttons. If you click the hand raise button now, you should be able to raise your hand. So go ahead and see if you're able to. Oh, look at that. We've got so many people with raised hands here. And I'm just wondering, because I don't want to call upon anybody who, without being recognized that they want to speak, What's it like if we were to, oops, so sorry, unmute? Is Fran Holiday in the mix?
I am here.
You are here. Hi,
I am here.
Fran.
Hi, Crystal.
So if you were to be in convention wanting to speak to a resolution or or have any official business, then this is what it would be like. I feel like
Yes.
it's phoning an old friend. Thanks, Fran, for being
Yeah,
willing
thank
to
you.
come on
Mhm.
and talk.
Thank you.
Okay, so give it a whirl and see if you can use the raise hand function to put your hands down. We're going up, we're going down. Okay, and then the other thing is our Zoom host can also put hands down. So maybe Zoom host might do that. Great, thank you. The next function we're just going to practice quickly is we're going to take a look at the Q&A. Q&A also is used for convention business. So Q&A is used to propose amendments to resolutions or to ask conventions about questions about convention-related business. If you'd like to enter an amendment, participants are asked to, actually delegates are asked to enter the exact wording in the Q&A, which saves the AV people from needing to type on the fly. So you would drop the exact wording for the amendment to the resolution into the Q&A box that pops up. And that can be entered or copied into the resolution on the screen. Q&A can also be used to ask questions regarding business items related to convention. The box will pop up and a member of the bishop's staff or on the convention team will reply to you as well. So let's give it a whirl. Let's practice. Locate the Q&A bottom at the bottom of your screen. If you click that button, you're able to type in your business-related question or your proposed amendment into the box, and then you can hit enter to submit. Are we seeing that? I think with screen sharing, I am not able to see those. So if there are any,
It's working great.
it's working. Okay, good. I need the feedback to know if it's working. Thank you, Kathleen. Now I see it. A lot of, how are you? The sun shining. Very good. Thank you so much. This is great. Yes, and there will be a lunch break at convention. How long before snow? Thank you so much. This is great. So you guys are doing aces with this the Q&A function. Okay, I feel very assured that you're going to know what to do on the day of convention. Okay, great. And then the last piece that I would like to ask you to practice, which I think a lot of people have already used, is the chat function. And the chat can be used for participants to interact with the entire group. These are where all of your non-convention business pieces will go. You know, if you want to say hello, if you want to ask for prayers, you know, if you want to talk about how lovely the voting video was, or, you know, some of the same, you know, conversational piece about, you know, I don't know, people last year shared about their cats and animals and things. But all those things, not business related, they go into the chat versus using Q&A or the hand raise function for them. So do me a favor and practice chatting if you haven't already by, you know, type something into the chat, introduce yourself, maybe your name and your congregation. Okay, so the question is the chat where tech questions will go? Tech questions will not go here. If you have a tech question, you have a couple of options. One of your options is to reach out directly to one of the helplines that will be sent to you early on, or And we'll have those helplines posted during convention. Also, if you have a question that you're not able to reach somebody, that we would consider convention-related business, and you could use the Q&A for that. Okay, great. Thank you for those introductions. And we're gonna move it along. There's some question as to, I mentioned the pre-convention support. Between now and November the 16th, you should be receiving your VPOL credentials that Rebecca had mentioned a little bit earlier. If you don't receive your VPOL credentials by November the 17th, please email Rebecca Elfring Roberts, and her email address are roberts@episcopalchicago.org. She will be able to help you out with that. In addition, Rebecca is also able to provide you with some technology assistance before then. So if you have trouble with your VPOL, or questions about your login or anything like that, Rebecca's definitely the person who can help you out with that. Likewise, we also will offer convention day support. That will be available from the time when we actually open up the webinar for people to log in, and we encourage you to log in early to just make sure that you're situated. Support will be available from 7 a.m. on Saturday through the time convention adjourns. And we can help you with things like logging into Zoom webinar, using some of the Zoom features that we just described a little bit ago. And then there's also support available for the VPOL voting platform, just to make sure everybody's able to do what they need to do in order to cast their votes during convention. So, rules of order. This is the part of the presentation where a lot of people may want to take a snooze, but I think it's important for everybody to know that our online convention will follow the rules of order for a virtual convention that were adopted at our 183rd convention on November the 21st of 2020. So here we go. We're going to breeze through. To participate in the convention, members must have access to the internet with a device that allows for connection to the internet platform and a unique email address at which you can receive your convention login information and links to the voting platform. Members of convention, and that's all delegates, who do not have access to a device or internet can request support and assistance from the convention planning team, who will assist to the fullest extent possible. All members shall receive an email no later than 3 days before each convention that includes the time of the meeting, the URL for convention, and codes to connect to the meeting, and the phone number and access codes that members would need to participate orally by telephone as an alternative and backup to the internet audio connection. A member, however, cannot participate solely by telephone and must be connected to the electronic platform via the internet on their device. Reason being, you need to be able to vote. So you need a separate device for voting, even if you are talking on your telephone. Internet meeting service availability will begin at least 2 hours before the start of each meeting. Technology support will be available. However, each member is responsible for their audio and internet connections. No action of convention will be invalidated on the grounds that the loss of or poor quality of an individual member's connection prevented their participation. Members will need to identify themselves using the registration platform, link by name, congregation, and order in order to sign into the Zoom platform. Since celebration of the Eucharist is not possible, morning prayer will be celebrated instead, and a quorum will be established by the completion of a registration form. To post in writing a question related to the business of convention, a member must use the Q&A feature, which we described a little bit ago. The chat feature may be used for non-business postings and will be disabled during vote balloting. And voting will take place during an electronic confidential voting platform, which you'll see in a bit. Okay, there's one more feature in Zoom that we need to practice, and that is Zoom polling. So Zoom polling is for this reason. One of the important acts of diocesan convention is to consider and vote upon the resolutions of convention. We'll vote on resolutions using Zoom polling. We'll also use Zoom polling to vote by acclamation in places where we would say yes or no, or for quick responses and results. Zoom polls will pop up on your screen and you'll answer with a yes or a no. When the Zoom box pops up on your screen, just be sure not to close it out, because if you close it out before you have a chance to vote, you will lose your opportunity to vote. It pops up, just don't close it. Cast your vote and click submit. Once you click submit, your vote is in and it cannot be changed. So here's a good opportunity for us to practice a couple of Zoom polls. Zoom poll number 1. Will it snow on Christmas? And we can track and see how many folks have voted, and the results are immediate. Okay, will it snow on Christmas? The day of convention, our secretary, our tellers rather, will be tracking the voting, and we'll make sure to leave enough time open for just about the bulk of folks to be able to cast their votes. After a time when it seems that the voting has stopped, the teller will end the voting and either move on, or in the case of an immediate ballot, let folks know what the results were. In this case, the vote, most people, 60% of the people on this particular Zoom think that it will snow on Christmas. So that'll be very nice and beautiful, scenic way to celebrate Christmas. And we can share, as you can see. So, okay. Can we do another poll? Okay. Poll number 2. Do you still believe in Santa? I kind of believe in Santa. Or at least I'm not telling Santa I don't believe in Santa. Okay, we've got about 44 folks, 45 folks in. I think about this time, I'm just going to end this poll. And voila, look at 62% of us believe that Santa is still a thing. 38% no. So this should give you a feel for what it's like to vote for via a Zoom poll. And again, this is something that we use for voting by acclamation. And we also use it for approving or not approving the resolutions of convention.
Crystal, would you like to do the last 2 or move along? It's totally up to you.
You know what? I think folks have the hang of it, and I think we should.
I was impressed.
Yeah, the results came right in, so I was feeling comfortable that people know what they're doing. Okay, so just moving along just a little bit here. One of the things that we would like to be able to do is just give you a preview of what the actual day will look like. So from 7 till 9 a.m., that's the time we're encouraging folks to check in for the Zoom webinar. We actually, sometime before 9, we will have the cutoff in terms of what the people we count toward the quorum, just because some calculations need to be made in order to certify the quorum by the time convention begins. That's not to say that people who check in, after that count is done can't participate in convention. It's just we are encouraging you to log in earlier to make sure that everybody, that we're able to establish our quorum early on. At 9 o'clock, we will have virtual morning prayer with a live sermon from the bishop. And then the convention business will convene at 9:30. There will be a morning break and convention will run until approximately 12:30, where we'll take a lunch break. Lunch break should last about half an hour. And after the lunch break, we will resume from 1 o'clock. We are scheduled to run until 5. We have a lot of resolutions of convention, but I imagine that we will break sometime before 5 o'clock. But we're on the calendar until 5, just to ensure that all the resolutions can be heard. So I will make a point that after lunch, we have to reestablish the quorum just to make sure that our voting is valid. And one of the tools that we'll be using to reestablish the quorum is vPoll, the tool that Rebecca Roberts spoke about just a little bit ago. We have a section here where Rebecca will, talk you through vPoll and how we will go about using it for voting and for establishing the quorum. Take it away.
Excellent. So for all of you, I'm sorry for the confusion again this morning. I was really hopeful that I'd be able to get you all in, and it seems like that's not going to be the case. And so there's a few of you who have received vPoll credentials. And so we will do a practice for those of you who tried to log in. Hopefully you all found the website, okay? And when you put in your credentials, it just gave you an error saying that your credentials were invalid. That is the exact place you will go with whatever device you use today on, Saturday the 19th. So if you've gotten that far, you're in a good place. But for those of you who have credentials, let's take some time to practice voting with vPoll. We'll use vPoll for our elections and ballot items. vPoll questions require that separate browser window or a separate device to vote, as hopefully you all have noticed. And so you can use Zoom Webinar on your computer, and you can use vPoll on your phone, or you can just have a separate browser window open with vPoll. So just like you received today, some of you, I believe, have registered even since I sent that email. So if you registered within the past hour or two and you didn't get an email from me, expect that you will next week. Those of you who did, you'll get an email very similar to that one next week that'll have different credentials from what you received today. It'll be a different ID number because we have a lot more people participating, but you'll receive essentially that same email, and it will come directly from me with your vPoll credentials. Unlike your Zoom webinar link, similar to today, you'll receive that from Zoom directly, which is that no reply at zoom.us. So you know what, I just realized, since my the other half of our meeting is not here, I actually realized I don't think I can run the poll this morning because that's usually what he does. And so I apologize I just realized that I'm not sure I know how to run the back end. I can see the back end, but I'm not sure I can actually select it to run. Give me 1 minute to see if I can pull that up. Oh, and I think I can. So let's see if I can make that happen. I apologize for being unprepared. I really thought that I had it all. Ooh, ready? So I think for those of you who are on a device, there's only, of the 64 of you on here, there's only about 15 or 16 who actually have vPoll credentials. But for those of you who have, you should, here's my phone and my device, you should see the question there. So you can take a moment to refresh your screen if it's not there, and you can go ahead and vote. And hopefully, the first one that we put forward is choose your favorite Thanksgiving side dish. And so you can choose up to 3 to vote for. And hopefully folks are getting a chance to vote. I'm going to give it another minute, although there aren't many of you. And we'll see if that came through. Wonderful. Oh. I don't know how to. All right, everyone. I apologize that I'm fumbling through this. I broadcast it, but now I can't give you the response. So give me 1 minute. Maybe Brad can see the back end.
I can see that we have 7 votes for sweet potatoes, 7 votes for cranberry sauce, and 4 votes for mashed potatoes, which are the top 3 getters.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brad. For those of you, Brad Lindbloom is one of our tellers. And so he will be with us on Saturday the 19th, along with Stacy Jackson, who's not with us this morning. And they are the ones that really run the elections and all the balloting. And so you will be hearing from them as we go through. So hopefully everyone had a chance to do that. If you didn't, I apologize that I don't have in place what we need to be able to have everyone practice, but you should be in the right spot. It'll come up on your separate device. So if you're able to find the website and try with your credentials, then you are in the right place and we should be good to go. We will have, again, all that tech support available on Saturday morning. And so if you do have issues on Saturday morning, you can reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to one of the other call-in lines and we can help get you squared away. I'm looking and seeing that there aren't any other questions. We have one question about how do you get credentials. Everyone who is registered to be a delegate or a voting clergy person for next week will receive them in an email this week. Are there any other questions about voting that I can answer? And I know not everybody got a lot of practice, but I see a hand raised from Anna Stefaniak.
Rebecca, I just want folks to remember if they have signed into vPoll early throughout the day, and sometimes when the questions do come up, they have to refresh their browsers.
Yeah.
And that's a good clue that people have to remember at a time when this happens.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. That's an important note. And you saw that in the voting video, but yeah, just to refresh. You also can change if you do drop out, you can go back in on a separate device as long as you use those same credentials. but you do just want to refresh, and you should be able to get the question that is posted. When we do the questions on Saturday, we will be doing them in succession. So you will see we'll be electing for clergy for bishop and trustees, and then lay folks for bishop and trustees, and then clergy for standing committee. And so you will get them sort of one at a time, and we will be watching to make sure that everybody get a chance to vote before we close that out and move on to the next. Are there any other, let's see. Great. And then I think that's all I have for VPOL. Crystal, why don't you take it away? Because I think Heather has a question about other events, and I think that's next on our agenda.
Perfect. Great. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Yeah, so next up, oops, we're going past these. Okay, so we have some pre-convention events coming up that will help you to be better prepared for a convention. Tonight, there is a budget hearing at 7 p.m. There is the candidate forum on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. where you can meet everybody who's running for elective office. And then November the 15th at 7 p.m. is the hearing for all of our 8 resolutions. So you'll want to be in on all of these conversations so you can be better informed for the business of convention. All of these sessions will be recorded, and the recordings, once again, will be available in English and Spanish, and we'll post those to the website in the next early next week. You should be able to get into all of these. If you look at our diocesan newsletter, we have put those events in the newsletter. So they're all Zoom events, password protected Zoom events. So they're in the newsletter. In addition, Rebecca, have we sent these out to our delegates independently?
We haven't sent them out independently. We sent out the date and time, but we didn't have the links live. So any of the last e-news from the past, I think, 3 weeks, so it's a leadership news or a general e-news, you'll be able to find those. If you can also go to the website. Oh, Kathleen just posted a newsletter. So if you scroll in the newsletter, you'll be able to find the link and then the password, which is Episcopal.
Thank you. Also in the newsletter, in the sections about diocesan convention, access to all of the convention related materials, copies of the resolutions, the nominations, the reports, everything. Kathleen Moore posted the link to all of those materials in the chat earlier. So and there it is again. Thank you very much, Kathleen. So that's a place where you can go and you get all the convention materials on the website. So this pretty much concludes what we have here. If you have questions, you can use the Q&A function, and we're happy to hang out and answer whatever questions anybody may have.
I also want to jump in and let's use our raise of hands. So I did just hear from our VPOL person that those of you who got that email from me this morning, your credentials have now been uploaded into the system. So let's do a quick raise of hands. If you would like to practice another poll and for everybody to do it, we can go ahead and do that now. But raise your hand if you'd like to. Otherwise, if you trust that you kind of understand how it works, that's great too. All right, I see there's a good number of folks who are raising hands and say that they like to participate. So give me just 1 minute. We'll see if anyone else has an additional question while I communicate with my partner in crime. And so give me just 1 minute to do that.
And while she does that, I will troll the Q&A for any open questions.
Also a little unsure. We do have, Marilyn Huntley has a hand up, and I'm not sure whether that's left over or not. So yes, it looks like it. Is it, Crystal, would it be okay for Marilyn to ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. One moment. Marilyn, you may unmute. Or maybe not. I think that might have been a mistake.
Okay.
It was left over.
It was left over. Thank you. I just wanted to be sure.
I see some hands raised.
Yes, Sophie, if you want to take over. Yeah. So Heather. Heather, you may unmute if you have a question. Okay, let's try Lynn. Lynn, you may unmute if you have a question.
Well, I just raised my hand because I wanted to practice the V poll and I got online, and so I'm ready for the question that will be broadcast shortly.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Welcome.
So the rest of the folks who have hands up, if you do not have a question, just press that hand raise button again to put your hand down. Okay. See a lot of hands going.
Okay.
All right. Again, we're going to assume if you have a hand up at this point that you have a question and would like to speak. If that is not the case, lower your hand. Okay. So let's start with William Powell, who may unmute now.
I'm just confused. You say you get the credentials for the convention 3 days prior, but what do you need to actually practice this voting? I don't have anything for that.
Okay, so when did you register for this session?
For this, just recently,
Like this morning?
maybe this morning or yeah.
Okay, and that could potentially be why?
Okay. So you're
Rebecca's,
supposed to get a response from that then. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
okay, and I know Rebecca's busy getting the voting together. I don't know if you can hear me, Rebecca, but
Yeah, I was just looking one, William, you should have gotten the email about 10 a.m. this morning with your credentials. Two, I think I'm trying to get, I'm still working on maybe trying to run that question by myself. So give me one more minute, but I think I can broadcast it when we're ready. But if we have, let's answer additional questions and then we'll do that polling. But
okay.
Absolutely. So here we go. Nancy Cook, I believe it is. Yes. And you may unmute, Nancy. Nancy, we're having trouble hearing you. Yeah, we can't hear you. There must be something with your microphone. So if you have a question, I recommend putting it in the chat or the Q&A. Sorry about that. Let's move to Fran Holiday.
Sorry, I put my hand back down. I apologize. But are we going to have a worship service that comes out on Friday like previous
This
Zoom
year,
conventions?
no, this year, Fran, it's one worship and that's morning prayer, the morning of convention.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
And let's go with Egior. I don't quite know how to say it. You may unmute. Egeor, you may unmute. Okay, let's try Don Huddleston.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay. Hi. And thank you so very much for doing this. This is a refresher from the last time I was here 2 years ago, I think, during the pandemic. So I just wanted to make sure that I have my technology in place. I can be seen and heard. And it looks like I am and am.
Yes, you are, and we very much appreciate the the putting in the practice first.
Okay, thank you so very much. I'm going to lower my hand at this time.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, I think I'm seeing no more hands raised. And so I'm going to go ahead and broadcast a question for us. It's a simple question, and as part of our quorum, and this is something that when you first come in, and part of why it's important that you log in ahead of time is so that we can take quorum when you first arrive in the Zoom meeting on Saturday morning. And so we ask that you do log in, even if you then put it on mute and walk away and go have breakfast and do the things you need to do. We will take quorum manually for the first part of the morning, but after lunch, we're gonna broadcast some questions that will allow us to retake quorum after lunch. And so it's a very quick, just making sure everybody's returned, we still have the same folks. So one of those questions will be, what is your role at convention? And so those of you who are logged in to vPoll, I believe I have just broadcast that question, although I'm watching my own and not seeing it come up. There it is. So hopefully everybody is seeing it on, if you're using your phone or if you're using another device, you're seeing that question come up. If you aren't, just refresh, try logging in again if you're having that issue. And while I'm sort of waiting and watching as that happens, as people are answering that question, it will be, there was a note in the chat about the credentials. After we close this call, please, if you want to, delete the email that had these credentials. That number that you use, somewhere between 1 and 56, will not be good next week. And so you will get a new one from me. And so just a reminder that these vPoll credentials, your name will be the same, but the vPoll credentials will be different next time. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to respond. I have to go in.
We have gotten 31 responses. So
Fantastic.
I believe that everybody who I have on participant login has been able to answer the question.
That's great. So I think what I need to do is I need to do this. Oh, and I think if I do that, what I've just done is broadcast the results to your phone to close it out. That is actually not something that we'll do day of, because we will present the results of these elections via a slide later after we've closed the poll. It'll probably be, the next time we have a break in the schedule. But you can see there that the folks that have participated, there's 32 folks that participated in this poll, 23 of whom are lay and 9 of whom are clergy. So if anyone had issues with that, go ahead and send a Q&A or send me a message. But hopefully everybody got a chance to see how that works and to be able to participate, figure out that their other device was going to do what they needed it to do.
Great. Does that conclude our vPoll voting practice? Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks for pursuing that and getting us to the point where everybody could practice. Okay, so that really does conclude our time together. Again, if you have questions and you want to hang out and use the Q&A function to ask some questions with us, happy to have you do that. Otherwise, we will look forward to seeing you on November 10th, tonight, for the budget hearing, for Meet the Candidates, and also for the resolution hearing, and then once again on November 19th for Diocesan Convention. So thank you very much.
It looks like we have a question or a raised hand from Sandra Castillo.
Yeah. Sandra, unmute yourself.
Thanks, Crystal. Yeah, I had asked in an email a couple days ago how to go about obtaining permission, and well, I know how to go about obtaining permission for guests to speak on behalf of the resolution, but how do we provide access to the guests to speak on behalf of the resolution?
We need to receive from you the names, and do we need email addresses also? Names and email addresses of the people that you will be inviting to speak.
Thank you. Will do.
Yeah, so can you send them to, do you want them, Rebecca, or should I get them? I'll take them.
Why don't you take them, because you can add them. Sandra, what we'll have to do is just invite them to the Zoom. Since they aren't sort of credentialed, they won't automatically receive a Zoom invitation. And so having their names and email addresses will allow us, one, to receive approval from the chair, and two, to send that invitation to them.
So I send them the email of the, I forward the email of the diocesan newsletter? Or is there going to be a special email for the convention?
You mean for the Zoom
Yes.
access? Each person will receive a communication from Zoom directly. And so that's why we need their names and emails ahead of time. There's not a general link. Everyone has a specific link and passcode. And so It's important that we have their information so we can send that to them directly next week.
Okay, thank you. And I'll send that to Crystal then?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. I think we might be done.
Yeah, I don't see. Oh, wait.
It looks like we just got a question from Erlene. And I wonder if we can unmute Erlene and see what got a message just saying that they're a little confused. So if we could, Erlene, if you could take the opportunity to unmute and you can talk to us and tell us what you're confused about.
Okay, it's nice talking to you guys. I am actually from El Grove Episcopal Church. The thing is, I'm supposed to be a lay person. I think that's the term they use for me. I was registered for this. And I know I'm supposed to vote. But what I signed into today was webinar, and the polling sounds like another sign-in. Is that so?
That is true.
I can find nothing that puts me into polling.
Arlene, let me take a look at my list and see. So you should have received an email from me yesterday, a personal email that I think the subject was Diocesan Convention Practice Details. And so I can send you another email to make sure that you received that. But in that communication, you should have received the vPoll. So if you scroll to the bottom, you would have received your vPoll credentials and the information about how to log in. And again, that's what will happen next week as well. So let's make sure that you find that email.
I don't have it Probably it could be in my junk mail or something.
It's possible. It would have come from rroberts@episcopalchicago.org. So RROBERTS at episcopalchicago.org. And so if you could take a minute to sort of search for it, but also I can send you another personal email or resend that to you to make sure that you get it.
Yeah, could you resend it? Because I don't see anything here. I'm looking through.
Yeah.
I don't see anything.
Yeah, we can do that offline. I'll make sure to resend it. And again, that email is now sort of not valid because it was only good for today, but you will receive one almost identical to it, just with a few different pieces of information for next week. And so it's important that you can see
Well,
that.
that is very helpful because I'm looking for mute and how to get out, and there was nothing here. So I'm glad that I was able to speak with you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad. That's what this time is for. And so I'm gonna resend you this communication. We want to make sure that everybody gets the help that they need.
Thank you so much.
We've got Ruth Cotton, the raised hand.
Thank you. Ruth, would you unmute yourself?
Here. I didn't receive your email yesterday either, Rebecca. I'm sorry. I got the one with the links for getting into this stuff and the news about the other meetings, the pre-meetings, but I didn't get an email from you directly yesterday.
Ruth, you should have received that email from me this morning. I'm looking at the list as to when people registered. And so there was,
I think I read, for this particular session.
Yeah, for this particular session, you registered.
I did that yesterday.
Yeah, sometime later in the day yesterday. And so, yeah, so you should have received it this morning. I think it was about almost 10 a.m. And that's how you should have gotten in. And then
I came in through the
well, and so that's
confirmation of my registration.
Yes, that's how you got into this Zoom webinar.
Right.
So you received two. You received one email from Zoom saying this is how you get into the webinar, and you received one email from me saying these are your VPOL credentials and a few things about the agenda for today and that kind of stuff.
Actually, I did not. All right.
I'm resending it to you right now so you can see. Hopefully it'll be at the top of your email. But again, that's how you'll get your VPOL credentials.
Right, but that's invalid now and you'll be sending another, correct?
Yes, so first for next week, Saturday, for convention on the 19th, you will receive one next week.
Perfect.
Yep, so the one you've got now was just for today. You'll receive another one that'll be, it'll have there's a lot more people that'll be voting next Saturday.
Oh, I think so.
We've got new ID numbers for everybody.
Well, I'll save that so I'll know when I get the next one.
And Ruth, if anything else comes up, please reach out this week or if you have other questions. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much for all your help.
Problem.
We'll see you at the next meeting. Well, actually, I can't tonight. I have choir practice. So what can I say?
We'll see you in the chat.
You will. You will indeed. Take care.
Thanks, Ruth.
It doesn't look like we have any other open questions or any other hands raised.
Nope.
All right.
So
we'll say bye to all. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.